Hello everyone, I am Pereira. I am the co-leader of Grupo Mulheres do Brasil, Irlanda. And I am here today for this first podcast in English of the Mulheres in the podcast Irlanda Talk Show. So bear with me in the English version of the first time. If you are not comfortable with the English, you can use YouTube's feature to add subtitles. And the reason we are speaking in English today is because we have a very, very special guest that is here with us, Mary Hayes. Hi, Mary.
Hi, how are you?
So, Mary, we will speak a little bit about a campaign Too Into You, and she will introduce herself in a minute. I would just want to please advise you to give a trigger warning that some content of this podcast may be disturbing to some viewers. So if you feel that this is too much for you, you can access their website, Mary will tell us, and also Women's Aid. So welcome, Mary. Welcome to our show. So please let us know what do you do?
Yeah, great. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on and for being so accommodating, because obviously I don't speak Portuguese. But it's great to be here. So I work with Women's Aid. So Women's Aid is the National Domestic Violence Service in Ireland. And we support women and children who are subjected to domestic abuse. But specifically, I work on the Too Into You campaign, which is focused on young women. So there might be a difference in language here, but the idea behind the campaign is that when someone is, into you, when they like you, and you're going out with them, that it can feel exciting if they're into you, and that they want to spend time with you and things like that. But if they're too into you, so they kind of go over the top with their love and attention and, wanting to know where you are and who you're with, things like that, that can be a red flag for abuse. So we're trying to raise awareness with the campaign of things like the red flags of abuse. So like the kind of early warning signs of abuse and the difference between healthy and unhealthy relationships. And we also have a dedicated website for young people. So it's called toointoyou.ie. And on the website, we have a chat service. So it's a messaging service that's completely free and confidential. So if you are worried about your own relationship or a friend's relationship, or just have any questions about anything, you hear today, that you can use that service and speak to the Women's Aid team, who can give you information. They can give you support if that's what you need. And on the website, there's lots of helpful tips as well. We also have a relationship quiz to see if your relationship is healthy or unhealthy. We have information about the laws protecting you, how to help a friend, things like that. So that's really what we're trying to do with the campaign, is just raise awareness of the fact that this does happen to young women, but that there are specific supports for them.
Yeah, perfect. So we're going to have the website and then the information on the description of this episode's video. So please access and get more information there. But Mary, tell us, why was this necessary? Why do you need to target this age range specifically?
Yeah, so I suppose when people think about Women's Aid, or even when they think about domestic violence or domestic abuse, they often kind of picture an older woman, or, somebody who's married and maybe living with their partner, or who has kids. But we've had a lot of young women come to us for support for an abusive relationship. So we created this campaign because we want young women to know that Women's Aid is also for you, that there are supports for you, and that the abuse that is happening to you will be taken seriously. So we kind of started to see an increase in young women using our helpline, coming through the kind of one-to-one supports, coming to our drop-in service. So we wanted to create that kind of specific support for them, because how abuse happens can be very different for a young woman.
Yeah.
So, for example, it could be maybe her first relationship. So, she doesn't have experience in relationships. She has nothing to compare it to. So it might be very difficult for her to recognize red flags of abuse, or maybe she doesn't know what the red flags of abuse are. So that's why we created that specific campaign, so that young women know this is serious. We will take this seriously. We will listen to you. We will believe you, and we will support you.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I'd say this is talking about the Brazilian community perspective. There are a lot of women, young women between this 18 and 25 age range that come here to study English. They are vulnerable because they don't have their family, they don't have their close friends together, and they might find difficult to share and to identify. So it's also important to tell people that when they call the Women's Aid helpline, that they can ask for an interpreter. So if you don't speak English, you can say, I'd like an interpreter in Portuguese or in whatever is your language, and the service is provided. So it brings it for everybody.
Yeah.
And
so the helpline, it's actually available in over 200 languages. So, we took, I think it was nearly over 500 calls from people needing interpretation last year alone. And the amount of languages that we have, it's always increasing. We also have videos on the Women's Aid website that are in different languages as well, around the red flags and the supports, things like that, because we know language obviously can be a barrier to finding help.
Absolutely. And among these topics that you cover, is there anything that you identified that is a predominant type of abuse among this group?
Yeah. So emotional abuse is probably the most common form of abuse that young women experience. And I think a lot of people kind of imagine, physical abuse. They imagine, the bruise, the black eye, things like that. And they think that you have to hit a certain level of, harm or abuse or physical abuse for it to be taken seriously. But actually emotional abuse can be just as devastating, because it can impact your self-esteem, your mental health. It can cause depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation, things like that. It can affect your ability to work, to spend time with friends, to move freely in your life. And we've done research in Women's Aid, and we know that 1 in 5 young women and 1 in 11 young men aged 18 to 25 have been abused by a partner or their ex-partner. And actually, for young women, emotional abuse is by far the most common form of abuse. So 9 in 10 had experienced emotional abuse. And it's interesting you talk about isolation, for young women coming to Ireland, immigrating to Ireland, that can be a particularly vulnerable time for you. If you've moved here, you've left your friends, your family behind. Maybe you haven't found a community here yet. Yeah. Maybe you're living with a lot of other people, or, your rent is very tricky for you. Maybe you're working cash in hand, things like that. That can put you in a situation that makes you more vulnerable for somebody to take advantage of those things. They know you don't have supports around you. They know that your employment status isn't the most solid, things like that. So they will take advantage of things like that. So isolation is one of the big ways that emotional abuse can happen. So a partner will kind of cut you off from friends and family, or make it difficult for you to see them. Or, if you're not in the same country as them, maybe they say, why are you Skyping them tonight? We were supposed to go to the cinema. Why don't you want to spend time with me? Because a connection to friends and family is so important, because what it is it's kind of a sounding board, or it's a reflection of the relationship. That's somebody outside the relationship who can tell you, hey, that doesn't look healthy, or, that seems a little bit off, what your partner is doing there. So connection to friends and family is really, really important.
Yeah. So if women are unsure if they are in a healthy and unhealthy relationship, can you do a little bit of this parallel? What will be the red flags for an unhealthy relationship, for example?
Yeah, so there are lots and lots of red flags. But I suppose some of the really, really common ones that we see from, say, young women in particular, okay? So one of them is around kind of trust. So, maybe your partner asks to look through your phone, wants to know your passwords to your phone or your social media so that they can, look at who you're talking to. They want to know what you're doing online, or maybe they're tracking your location on Snapchat, things like that. So what that says is they don't trust you. They don't see you as an equal in the relationship. And, that jealousy is actually possessiveness because they're trying to control who you talk to, who you spend time with. So that's one is, wanting to know your passwords, looking through your phone. Another one is, threatening to share intimate images or videos of you. Okay. So one of the things that kind of happens very often early on in relationships is people will send photos to each other. It's kind of part of the start of a relationship. Sometimes, not all relationships, obviously. And that can be done consensually, okay, between two people. Yeah. But later on, if there is control there, that your partner might say, well, if you break up with me, I'm going to send those photos to a WhatsApp group of all my friends, or I'm going to post them on a porn site, or I'm going to send them out to everyone. I'm just going to put them online. So that threat is coercive. It's coercive control because it says, if you don't stay with me, I will do this thing that will harm you. So what that does is it makes you try and change your behavior. So it makes you stay in a relationship that you don't want to be in, basically. And actually now that is a crime in Ireland. So if somebody shares images or videos of you without your consent, that's a crime. But if they threaten to share them, that is also now a crime because it is coercive. Yeah,
we actually had a recent situation in the Brazilian community that people were threatened by a person that it isn't their partner, but it pretended to be, and then he was threatening, and this is a crime. Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is, online abuse is really, really common. You may have never met a partner. You could be dating someone online, or somebody will use, social media, things like that as a tool to carry out abuse. So maybe you're not in the same county as them, maybe you're long distance, maybe you live in a different country to them. They can still use the online space as a tool to try and control you. So maybe they'll hack into your emails or your social media to see what you're doing. Maybe they have control over your finances. Maybe if they're at home and you're earning money, that they're coercing you to send all that money home, putting you into debt, or saying, well, you live in Ireland, you make a lot more money there. You should be sending this money to me, and using that kind of guilt and manipulation to control someone's finances.
Yeah, when you're talking about the red flags there, you said about something about the jealous, and then it came to me in the Brazilian culture. I would say jealousy. It's something that it's seen as something desirable. It's nice. It's a sign of love. Mm-hmm. And if you think about it, isn't.
Yeah,
it isn't in a healthy relationship, or it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we say, oh, this guy, he's so jealous, but it's because he loves me.
Yeah. And that's the thing that's, a lot of the time, again, used as a tool to control someone or to make you feel like you belong to that person, But what that says is there isn't equality in this relationship. Everyone wants a healthy relationship. Everyone wants their partner to love them and to care for them and to want them. Everyone wants to be wanted. Obviously, that's completely natural. But if that person is, the person who's supposed to love and care for you is doing it in a way that makes you feel shame or makes you feel guilt, for maybe talking to other people, for talking to a male friend, for going out and spending time with friends, and saying, well, why are you hanging out with them? They're a bad influence. Or why are you dressing like that? Are you trying to impress other guys? That's not an equal relationship. That shows they don't respect you. As a woman, you're entitled to wear whatever you want. You're entitled to go wherever you want, spend time with whoever you want. And in a healthy relationship, your partner celebrates that. They celebrate you for you. They don't try to change you, and they don't try to control you.
Yeah, it's important for women to know that this is not the norm. That this sort of man that really want to tell you what to do and what to wear, this is not the norm.
Yeah. And the thing is as well, it's very easy for me to say these things, but if somebody is feeling that like, oh, it feels lovely for them to be jealous when I talk to someone else, you know. But the important point is that abuse is really serious, and it can happen very subtly and very slowly over time. So it's really important to recognize the red flags when they happen and to take them seriously and to really look at your relationship. Talk to your friends about it. Talk to us about it, you know, because nobody gets into an abusive relationship knowingly. Nobody wants, you know, nobody. Yeah, exactly. But it can get to that point very, very subtly, very kind of under the radar without you realizing. So if a partner is showing jealousy and is showing signs of control, that it can get much worse. It might feel okay now, but those things can get much worse over time. And unfortunately, the very worst thing that can happen is that you will be killed by your partner. And unfortunately, we have seen that already this year with the murder of Bruno Fonseca. Yeah. You know, so this is a really, really serious issue. And that's why, you know, I don't want to go out and look like I'm giving out to young women saying, you know, don't do this, don't do that, and break up with your partner. I want women to be empowered to understand what the red flags are so that they can spot them early on, because they deserve to have happy and healthy relationships. Yeah. I want them to know what a healthy relationship is because they deserve to have a healthy relationship. You know, it's empowering. It's empowering for us to learn it. It's empowering for us to talk about it with our friends, with our family, to, you know, bring the conversation out there so that this becomes the norm. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, no, that's huge. I say you deserve, and these women deserve, we all deserve a healthy and a nice relationship, to be empowered and to be valued in a relationship. So that's huge. And it's also important for people to know that this partner that's been abuser, he doesn't come across always as a monster that people would say, and your friend, if you're in an unhealthy relationship, that your friends would spot straight away. Yeah. It's important for people to know that.
Yeah, big time. So I suppose to set the context for why this happens, is really important. So the way that abuse starts off, generally, this isn't all the time, but generally, it starts with a thing called love bombing. So love bombing is when you start to go out with someone and, you know, they want to spend all their time with you. They text you all the time. They tell you, you're my soulmate. None of the other girls were like you. You're different. I love you. Let's be exclusive. My life would be nothing without you. You know, they comment on all of your photos and videos, tell you you're beautiful, buy you presents, bring you out to dinner, to the cinema, all these lovely things.
Nice,
which feels nice. You know, who doesn't want those things? But the problem is it does two things, It sets the scene for them to kind of excuse bad behavior later on. So they might say, I brought you out last night. You know, why won't you have sex with me? Or why do you want to spend time with your friends? I've been so nice to you and I want to spend all of my time with you and prioritize you. Why don't you want to do the same for me? That's manipulation, you know. You should be able to say, I need to spend time with my friends. That's important to me. And to be able to communicate that with your partner and for them to say, you know, okay, I respect that, you know. And the second thing that love bombing does is later on in the relationship, when things do get worse, the love bombing gives someone a glimpse back to what the relationship was like before. So abusers aren't abusive all the time. Yeah. There'll be kind of rises and falls. So they might be, you know, really angry and they might fly off the handle and have a bad temper. And then they'll apologize and say, I'm sorry, you know, that's not me. I'm stressed, you know, oh, I've got anxiety at the moment. I'm just not doing well. I'm really sorry. And then it'll happen again and then they'll apologize. So they'll give you glimpses of what it was like at the start of the relationship. And what that does is it makes you think, maybe it's not that bad. You know, maybe it is in my head. Maybe he is just having a bad day, you know. But that pattern is there, and that's what abuse is. It's a pattern, And by them making you feel like, oh, well, it's not that bad. And it's actually your fault. If you know, weren't more thoughtful, if you didn't spend time with your friends and you spent more time with me, well, then maybe I wouldn't be so, you know, annoyed or stressed or feel like you were rejecting me. But what that does is it's putting the blame back onto you when it's not your fault. It's the other person's behavior that is the problem. But yeah, that's the thing. Abusers, they're not abusive all the time. And especially to family and friends, at the start of the relationship, they might paint themselves as kind of this perfect partner, okay? So that's all the friends and family have seen. And then slowly they'll start to be, you'll start to be isolated from your friends and family. So the friends and family mightn't even see how the relationship has gone downhill, and they won't see what the partner is like now. They'll just remember, oh, but he's so nice. He's such a great guy. He's got a good job, and, he's good with his family. It doesn't matter who they are. There are people who come from good families, who have good jobs, who have bad jobs, who have a house, who have no house, whatever, who can be abusive. Yeah. It can be anyone.
Yeah. And let's say I spotted some of these red flags that you're mentioning, and I realized that I am in an unhealthy relationship. So what do I do?
So I suppose there's a couple of things. So the first thing is it can be really distressing to recognize red flags, because no one wants to think about that from their own relationship. Yeah. And generally people will go straight to feeling guilty. Like, how did I let this happen? The first thing I would say is it's not your fault. Abuse is never your fault. It is done to you. Yeah. There can also be a lot of shame around it, feeling like, oh, I should have spotted it earlier. I should have talked to someone. And people sometimes don't want to tell their family and friends about it. So
it might feel like a failure.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Which can be really cruel, because that's the mindset that your abusive partner has created in you.
Undermine your self-esteem and all that.
Yeah. So, questioning yourself, like, maybe it is in my head, maybe it's not that bad, it's gaslighting basically. Yeah. But what I would say is, first of all, visit the toointoyou.ie website and take the relationship quiz. It's just 10 short questions, and it can tell you if your relationship is healthy or unhealthy. Or you can call the Women's Aid helpline. It's 24 hours a day, and it's completely free and confidential. So that'll be in the description. And you can also use the chat service on the Too Into You website. Really, it's just about knowing that you don't have to go through this alone, because it can feel like a really, really big thing. Yeah. And also people sometimes think, oh, well, I can't reach out to Women's Aid. That's only for people who are, being hit or, being threatened to be killed or really, really serious. That's not the case. If anything feels off at all, listen to your gut and reach out to us, because we know what abuse is like from the very start to, when it's been going on for years. And we believe all of those experiences, and we take all of those experiences seriously. So if anything feels off at all, please do reach out to us. Or, you can talk to a friend about it. Even if you have been isolated from your friends, like maybe you haven't seen them in a while, generally friends want to look out for us and they care for us. Yeah. So if you haven't seen them in a while, and you do need support, I think try and reach out to them. And more often than not, friends will be ready to, listen to you and welcome you back with opening arms, because they know at the end of the day what has been happening.
Yeah, exactly. And this is something I would like, we will have our information as well on the description. But if you are a Portuguese speaker and you don't feel confident in reaching out to Women's Aid at the minute, you can contact us through our email, direitosmulher, at Grupo Mulheres do Brasil .com.br, and we have a team that really gives support to Portuguese speakers, to Brazilian women, and direct them to Women's Aid, and we will kind of tell them how are the steps that they will need to follow. Yeah. So they do feel that they are not alone, because sometimes, as we mentioned in the beginning, they don't have friends here yet. Mm-hmm. They've been isolated from the little group, the little network that they have created. Yeah. And then they don't feel like they can go back to that.
And even if they do still have a connection with their friends, that they might feel really ashamed to talk about it with their friends. So that's why it's really important to have groups like yours, that they have that community support and that they have our support as well. it's really about knowing that you don't have to do this alone. There are lots of people who are ready to wrap around you and answer your questions, no matter how small or large they feel.
And for our group, it's a big challenge to encourage women or to get women to report the abuse, to go to the guards and then to make a statement, or, because sometimes they might need a restraining order or something like this. So, and sometimes they not always have a positive experience, or they are afraid that they won't be believed, that they won't have an positive experience, that they will have what they are looking for when they go to the guard. So what sort of, let's say, advice you could give to women that are not sure if they should go?
Yeah. So I suppose that can feel like a very scary thing to do. And again, to know that you don't have to do that on your own, because it can be a very complicated process to navigate. So first of all, on the Too Into You website, we have a whole page about the information you need to apply for a barring order, a protective order, things like that. Basically, something that will protect you from your abusive partner approaching you, things like that. So we have information there. That's also what that chat service is for, and the helpline, so that we can talk you through that process and tell you what you need, if you need evidence, things like that, how to apply for those orders. And we also have a drop-in service in Dublin City Centre at Dolphin House. It's in Temple Bar. And that's completely free. And you don't need an appointment. You can just arrive and the girls there will look after you. So we can take you through that process, because it can feel scary. And, there can be, with the guards, issues around language, around internalized racism, things like that. So again, I would encourage women to please contact your group, contact Women's Aid, so that they're supported if they do need to speak to the guards.
Yeah. And let's say I am the friend who's been got in touch by someone that has been in an abusive relationship. So what are the things that I can say or not?
Yeah.
I'd say more important, what shouldn't I say to that person?
Yeah. So the most common thing that people will do is they'll speak to family or friends. They won't come to us, they won't go to the guards, they will speak to a family or friend. So you have actually a massive opportunity being a friend to support someone. It can feel daunting, but there are very simple things that you can do, okay? The first thing is to just remind them that you're there. Even if they haven't spoken to you and said, I think I'm in an abusive relationship, if you have spotted some red flags, and we have a page on this on the Too Into You website that has how to help a friend, how to spot red flags in someone else, things like that, what to say, what not to say. Yeah. But if you spot some things in your friend's relationship, one of the best things you can do is just check in on them. Just text them to say, hey, how are you? That reminds them that you are there, because more than likely they feel really alone. Also, their partner may have told them that, your friends don't like you. They don't want to spend time with you, or
they are toxic.
They're toxic. Exactly. They're a bad influence. That's one we hear all the time. So for you to text your friend and remind them that you were there could be huge, because what that says is what your partner is saying is not true. I'm here and I'm checking in on you and I care about you. And even if you don't get a reply, to just do that again in a couple of weeks' time. Try and meet up with them to just keep that relationship open, so that they know when they are ready to talk about it, that there will be someone there. Because right now they probably feel like they have no one, and the only person that they have is their partner, their abusive partner, because that's what their partner has told them. Some of the things not to say is don't tell them to leave their partner. So it's kind of a reflex for people to go, well, just break up with him, But for somebody who's in an abusive relationship, it can be really frightening. It can also be incredibly dangerous, because after you leave an abuser, sometimes the abuse can get worse. Yeah. And she will know all of that, okay? She knows what's safe for her, what's not safe for her. And it's up to her when she decides she's ready to break up with him, that she has supports in place. Maybe she needs financial support. Maybe she needs somewhere to stay. or somewhere to, a way to get public transport. Maybe she needs cash, things like that. So it's really up to her to decide when she's ready to end the relationship. But I don't want to say too many things like don't do this. Just check in on your friends. Remind them that you're there. That can be a massive, massive lifeline.
Yeah, I'd say it's easy for us when someone doesn't reply to our messages. It's like,
I tried.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But really insist, because that person, as you said before, is not in that relationship willingly.
Yeah.
She's not happy, but she doesn't know that's happening, or she doesn't know how to leave, or she's not ready yet.
Yeah.
So give that person time.
And she is potentially in danger.
Yeah, that's it. And imagine for us, if you could have just checked in that person and then something worse happens, and then you're like, oh, I should just text.
Yeah.
So don't be in that situation.
Yeah.
And then we're talking here about your friend, and in some people's mind might be that we are just talking about women. But I'd say it's also important to understand that men has a huge they have a huge role in all this, because one, they can be the abusers more often they are, and they are also friends of some women, and they could be a bigger threat to their relationship.
Yeah,
it's unhealthy. And we have this society that we actually have a project ongoing that is to talk to men about this toxic masculinity, that you don't have to be the macho man that we before believed it was nice. You know, that men can cry, men are vulnerable, men can ask for support. So we are partnering with other institutions to have support for them. Yeah. So what if you want to help your friend that is, you spotted that your friend is being an abuser?
Yeah. So, we really need men to step up and be allies, because, yes, men are predominantly the ones who are abusive, but also all of those men have friends. All of the women who this is happening to will have male friends. So it's really, really important that men use their voices to say, I don't accept violence in any aspect of my life, to call out sexist comments from their friends, to call out their friends if they're catcalling or speaking about women in a derogatory way, because what that does is it demonizes and puts a negative kind of view on what it is to be a woman. And that affects what it means to be a man. You say like that men are told, you can't be emotional, you can't cry. We know that feminism can help men, can help them feel like their most authentic self, and allow them and give them the permission to tap into their emotions and to really be celebrated as men who are allies to women and who stand up against violence in all aspects. So that's fantastic that you have a program around toxic masculinity, because we want men to be their authentic selves and to stand up against this, because they have a huge role to play in this. Women have been talking about this for a really, really long time. We need men to start talking about it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have here Edu as our amazing ally. So unfortunately, we ran out of time, but it was really lovely having you. And thank you so much for partnering with us in this and being there for women. And we are just want to really let them know that they are not alone. There are services for you. Please reach out. Please feel that, understand that this is not something that it's wrong. There's nothing wrong with you. It's something that happens. We understand that happen, and we will help you. There are services for you. So thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and so we will have all the information that we shared here, all the websites on the description. And thank you for being with us, and we'll see you next time. Take care.